been a little while. I just want to invite you back for another Tuesdays with Grace. I'm really excited about today's episode because I get to talk about one of my favorite subjects is the stitching modes on your machines and how the stitching modes are fun and each mode does specific things, and so it makes quilting a little more interesting for you as a quilter. Because you don't have to quilt the same way, the same design all the time. And it mixes things up. So let's jump in and talk about the stitch regulation and the movement and how it correlates with you as the quilter so that you have a better understanding. And you can set your SPIs, that's your stitches per inch, to the correct setting and use the correct stitching mode for the designs that you're quilting. So let me talk to you about the stitch regulation. Not every machine has stitch regulation, but our Q'nique machines have built-in stitch regulation except for our 15 manual. It's just a manual machine that you could add stitch regulation to. It's a lower cost, but a great way to get into a little bit longer throat and very easy to use. And it's a great way to get started. It's just kind of a step up from your domestic machine. So if you're interested in just a little longer throat and you like the feel of manual mode, that's something to consider because you have the buttons and you don't have to worry about the foot pedal and the movements and everything like that. You can start and stop. So on this machine, I'm using our Q'nique 19. And all of the machines that have built-in stitch regulation have the same things. They have what we call encoders. And the encoder is what tells the machine, has a little chip inside of it, a little electronic board that senses the movement of the machine. So it senses that you're starting to move across or front to back faster, so it tells you to speed up. It tells the machine, okay, she's moving or he's moving the machine faster, so I need to speed the machine up. So I'm going to move to the back of the machine right now. On all the frames, you have a lower carriage, which is your side-to-side movement, and an upper carriage or a machine that acts as the upper carriage, and it's the front-to-back movement. So when you're quilting, you get that whole full access. So on the machines themselves, you will have an encoder, and the encoder is what sits right here on one of the wheels. And you want to make sure that it's plugged into the back port that's for the encoders on your machine. Or if you have a domestic machine and you're using stitch regulation, it will be plugged into a box. And then you have the bottom encoder, which is your side-to-side movement, and it's down underneath the bottom carriage. And it senses that side-to-side movement as you're moving. And just make sure that they're both plugged in correctly and that the cord isn't wrapped up underneath the wheel, because if the wheel goes over the cord, it's going to disrupt your stitching and just look terrible. So make sure that your cords are taken care of and out of the way. Okay, so with the built-in stitch regulation, on the Q'nique machines, you have 4 stitching modes. Let's just quickly talk about the base mode. It's just real simple, real easy, and it just based or tacks down your sides. You have 3 sizes of stitches. You have small, medium, and large. So if you want to tack down your sides using the base mode, be my guest. It's not one that I really use because I don't like to go through each of the functions just to get to the base mode. So I will usually lower my stitches per inch to a larger stitch and use maybe whatever stitch mode I'm in, if that's manual or stitch regulated precise or cruise. So if you lower your SPIs, and this is what they call it. So right here on my screen, you're going to see right under where it says regulated precise, you're going to see 10 SPIs. That's the preset stitches per inch that all the machines are set to. Now you can change those, and you'll want to change them as you're working through different designs and different modes. That's what's the beauty of this, is that really you can quilt the way you like and really hone in and make that quilt more beautiful by, learning how to change these settings and how easy it is for the different designs that you're quilting. So that's the SPIs. So if you want to lower it, you either use the buttons on your machine, on your handles, or you can use the touchscreen. This is a Q'nique 19, so I do have the touchscreen. Some of the machines, the regulated machines, you just use the buttons to go through and change the settings. And it's not hard to do. You just get your manual out and learn that the buttons will take you through it very easy, very carefully. And once you understand how they work, it's so easy to change your modes and change your SPIs that you'll be doing it all the time. And I really encourage you to jump in and try them. So we're going to start out with regulated precise mode. And I love this mode, but I love it for specific designs and specific ways that I like to quilt. I like regulated precise when I am using rulers and ruler work. And I will change my needle set to the down position so I don't lose my spot and I stop. So in regulated precise, let's turn the machine on. So I want to bring my bottom thread up. You always want to bring your bottom thread up, because if you're quilting, you don't want those little tails dangling down underneath and get caught under your beautiful design, because you want your back to look as pretty as your top will be. So we want to bring our bottom thread up, and so I'm just going to move over here to this corner of this blue right here, and I'm going to push this button right here. This is the needle down button. And I'm going to insert the needle. Now I'm going to push it one more time to bring it up, and now I'm going to hang on to this tail. And as I pull it forward, notice what it's doing. It's pulling that bottom thread up, and that is exactly what we want, because we don't want that hanging down underneath to get caught under our stitches. It's as easy as that to bring your threads up, and always remember to do that. Even at the end of the design, it's really important. Again, we want our back to look as pretty as our top. So as you're quilting in regulated precise, as we're quilting, I'm just going to turn it on here. And notice, as I move around, my stitches look really nice, very even, but if I stop, the needle stops moving. And that's what it does in regulated precise mode. So it gives you a little time to hesitate and think about the direction that you want to move on your quilt as you're quilting. Now, if I was using rulers and the ruler base and ruler work, I would have the needle stop in the down position, and you can change the needle to be a needle up or a needle down by pushing this button, and that'll put the needle in the down position. I really like the needle to stop in the down position on most of my designs. It's so I don't lose my place and so it doesn't veer off. When it's in the up position, you're going to have the machine, because it moves so freely and so smooth, it'll move slightly and throw off your design just slightly. So it really is a good thing, but try it both ways. Try it with the needle up and see how you like it, but also try it with the needle down and see how well you like it. You don't have to use the needle in the down position just for rulers. Just because somebody said that's the best, yeah, it is, so that you can reposition your ruler and move on, but sometimes you need to stop, and when it's in the down position, you're not going to lose your spot. When it's in the up, you're going to lose that, and you're going to have to try to get back to it. So this just makes it a little easier, so that especially if you're using a hoop frame and you're shifting your fabric from side to side, front to back, needle in the down position is a good rule of thumb, especially for you as you're moving your fabrics. And you don't have to rip the fabric across. You want to gently move it with the needle inserted down, and that way you're not going to lose your place. So we've changed the needle to the down position, and we're in regulated precise, and as I'm quilting, if I stop, the needle will stop, okay? will stop moving. But once I start moving again, it's going to start moving back up again. Now let's talk about the stitches per inch and what setting. So I've been to a lot of shows and I've met with a lot of quilters out there. And your movements relate to how the stitches will look. So if you have a machine that's not a real fast machine and you're moving it, I have this at 10 SPI, and you're moving it like really fast like this, notice my stitches still look pretty good, but even my design doesn't look as well, and my stitches can become a little more elongated. And you heard the little beep sound? That's called the overspeed. That's letting you know that you're moving the machine faster than the sewing machine can sew. And not all machines will have that. So if you're a beginning quilter, that overspeed is a great tool to use to learn how to regulate your movements as you're moving across your quilt. And like I said, they look pretty good and they're staying nice and consistent, but if I was whipping across it, they're going to get even a little longer and not be quite as consistent. So make sure that you understand that your sewing machine only works as well as you're moving it, and so is the stitch regulation. Once it reaches that limit of how fast it can actually sew, then you're moving past that limit and it doesn't matter. It's like cruise control, okay? Once you start pushing on that brake, it's going to take it out of cruise control and it's back into that manual mode where you have to adjust your stitches. So make sure that you're working to become more of an even and get your rhythm. That's what I wanted to say. You get your rhythm in quilting. Okay, so that's a little bit about regulated precise, and it's a great mode for specific designs because when you're in regulated precise, like I said, when you come to a stop, it comes to a stop. So if you're quilting a design that has a little point on it, it's a great mode. I love it because it comes to a nice crisp point. Notice how pretty my points look. But if I lowered my SPIs to a little lower and made it, I want to show you what it does. It's not going to move as fast, but look at how nice my stitches are. So if you don't know your design very well, the rule of thumb is, this is my rule of thumb, and it may not be yours. My rule of thumb is slow the machine down and move it a little slower because you need the thinking time. But if you know the design and you want to raise it, I would turn it up to a little faster because I know the design. But you don't want to change your stitches in the middle of a quilt. You want them to look nice and consistent, so keep them all the same. I've made that mistake as well. So just make sure that you're keeping your stitches nice and consistent as you're quilting. So that's a little bit about regulated precise and the different stitching modes. So find your stitch. Now, I use the 21 Pro and it is a fast machine. So in regulated precise, I like my stitches per inch to be 9 because that is a prettier look to me, and because it's such a fast machine and I'm a little slower quilter, my stitches look like this. They look a little nicer and they're not teeny tiny. So let me show you what happens when I turn the SPIs up and I'm moving it a little slower. So we're going to try to go back this way. See how tiny those stitches are? I don't think those stitches look as nice as the larger ones. They don't look as quilted. So it's not a good look and it's not something I like, so I probably wouldn't raise it up and move it a little slower. Now, if you know the design, move it up to a little faster, but if you made a mistake, I wouldn't want to unpick that. So just know that that correlates to, you know, what you might have to unpick, and you may not want it quite so small. So just look at it and see what you like. Some quilters like the teeny tiny little stitches, others don't. It's your preference. You're quilting how you want to quilt, but you're not going to know what you like or what you don't like unless you try it. Okay, so let's jump in and let's talk about the next mode, which is regulated cruise. Now, regulated precise, remember, it stopped when you stopped moving the machine. Regulated cruise has a little different mode. It's kind of cool as well. I also like to use regulated cruise when I am using rulers as well, but I will also make sure that the needle is in the down position. I also like regulated cruise when I'm quilting feathers or little pebbling designs as fillers. The thing about regulated cruise, and I want to lower my SPIs, because I've kind of talked to you about the SPIs. I probably won't come back to them. Maybe I will, I don't know. So I'm going to come back to 10 SPI. But notice that right under here, underneath this 19-inch machine, this Q'nique 19 and our 15 Pro has the same setting as well as our 21 Pro. It has a 5%. It's the minimum speed. This minimum speed is how fast, when you turn it on, the needle is going to move up and down. So you can move that speed up a little higher and make it move faster, or you can slow it down to the 5%. So let me show you what it does when I turn it on at 5%. Notice that the needle is going to slowly move up and down, so you don't want to leave it in one place too long, or it's going to build up a nest underneath. So when you're quilting a design, just make sure that you just practice it in all the modes to see what mode you like. Now, a lot of people like regulated cruise for designs that come to a point, because they say it ties off that little and anchors that point. I don't know, you try it, see what you like. I kind of like it because when I come to the point, it kind of can overlap sometimes on that point as I'm quilting. So just try it. Now let's try it with the minimum speed and the needle going a little faster. Now I would like that for pebbling, because the needle's going to go in and up and down faster and anchor those stitches in those pebbles and make it a little more rounded. Now when you're quilting pebbles or circle designs, you don't want to have your stitches per inch to be at this big ugly stitch. You want it to make it look not square, you want it to look a little more rounded. So this is one area when you're quilting kind of curvy designs, I would turn my SPIs up to a little higher, maybe 11 or 12, and put my minimum speed at 10, and I'll show you what the needle is going to go. And as I'm making my pebbles and I'm going around, and my hand is a little hurt right now, so my pebbles aren't that great, but they're okay to show you. So that was at 10. So let me turn up the minimum speed to 15, and let's go 20 and see what that looks like. It's even going to go faster. And it even makes the pebbling a little easier if Karla could just stay on it. But notice how much fun that is. And it's just a little different way of quilting, where your needle is going around and you're accentuating your little pebbles. So I have to admit, these aren't my best pebbles, but they're showing you what the machine does. But anyway, try that minimum speed, because I really like it. I like the needle to go up and down a little faster, especially when I'm doing a small little filler design. It makes the design more, instead of little ovals, it makes it more rounded and more beautiful. So play with it and see what you like. Okay, so now I've showed you regulated cruise and what the needle does, and the needle is not going to stop moving up and down. So once you turn it on in regulated cruise, you want to start moving your machine across your quilt, making your design. Don't let it sit in one place too long, or it's going to build up a knot underneath and you're not going to like the look underneath. So that's one of those, there are pros and cons to each of them. So find what mode you like and use it to its capabilities so that you're quilting and make your quilt the most beautiful quilt ever. So let's talk about one of my other favorite modes is manual. Okay, I love manual mode because it takes it out of the stitch regulation, but there's a trade-off. When you take it out of stitch regulation, you have to adjust the movements so that you're regulating your stitches. So in manual mode, if you move it really, really fast, you're going to get quite long stitches. And then it's set to sew. So let's just play around with manual mode right now, okay? So notice on the manual screen, you have it's set at 100%, where that needle is going to go up and down at 100%. And I don't want that because I am not that fast of a quilter. So I'm going to move it down, and we're going to go back down to 20, which is the lowest setting. And notice that on this 19, you have presets here. So I just used the 20% as the preset. So you could use the 70, but I don't know that I've ever quilted past 70. You try it and see what you like. Manual mode takes it out of stitch regulation, so as you're moving, you're going to have to adjust your stitch movements. So let's just try it at 20% here. And notice, it just keeps moving at 20%, but I don't want to move it too fast because I don't want to make my stitches too big. So if I start moving it faster, then it actually is sewing. Notice what happens with my stitches, they become a little larger. So as I'm quilting in manual mode, what's nice about manual mode is that you can change your speed while you're quilting. You can do that in the other modes too, till you find your rhythm. Because you don't want the stitches to be too small, but you don't want them to be too big either. And you'll find your rhythm, but it has a little smoother feel as you're quilting than the other modes because you're not using the encoders. I like manual mode if I'm drawing a design on. I just love quilting, even with my arm. It's just so much fun. Oh, wow. I could do this all day. Okay, so notice that my movements make a huge difference as I'm quilting. And I've been doing this a little while, so, I know the feel and I know how fast to move it. But if I had slowed it down to 20, I just want to show you. It's got 30 now. So let's slow it down to 20. And it goes down in 5 increments, so notice that as I'm quilting, how big my stitches can get. So I just want to turn it up, get my rhythm. But again, like regulated cruise, you don't want to leave it in one place too long once you turn it on, or you're going to get those knots built up underneath your on your back. So manual mode's also another mode where if I've drawn my design on, I really like to travel across it. It also works well for pebbles. So I really like it for pebbles as well, because it's a little smoother feel. I feel like I have a little bit more control over my pebbles as I'm quilting. So try your pebbles in manual mode. But no, it's an area I would never want to unpick, so make sure you want your pebbles because you're moving it a little slower and across it. So that's a little bit about manual mode and how to try the settings. Try them and see which one you like for the different designs. Now I want to just quickly talk to you about different designs and what mode I would use them in, because I feel like this is really important. Okay, so if you're quilting a feather design, it's got a more rounded curve on it. You could use either regulated precise, cruise, or manual mode, okay? Because you're going around the curve, I would change, if I was using regulated precise mode, I would probably turn my SPIs up just a little bit, so as I'm going around those curves, you get a few more stitches into them, and I would probably set, if I was using regulated cruise, my minimum speed maybe to 10 or even 15. So try the different designs using the different ways, the different tools in the settings for your quilting, okay? So a beautiful design, but will even look better when you are quilting it with whatever mode you like best. Okay, here's one. I probably wouldn't use this one, use regulated cruise or manual mode. I would use regulated precise because, again, you're coming down into a point and they're kind of jagged edges. And so with the needle in the down position, and I probably put my stitches maybe up to 12 and use regulated precise mode. Again, try it in all the different modes to see which way you like to quilt. Now, stippling. I love stipple because the stipple design is, once you mastered the stipple design, it's a real easy way to quilt. And if it's a denser, if you're using the stipple to fill in a small little area, I would use either regulated cruise or manual mode. But again, if it's that smaller area, make sure you're using your settings to the best advantage for your design to look cohesive and nice. So I've used the stipple mode in regulated precise mode as well, but it's a larger scale stipple design, not a small. So, and then here's a little feather going across. Again, just the same mindset, just try them, but change your SPIs, change the needle to the down position, raise or lower them, decide which one you like the very best. And then here's a couple more. This little popcorn, I would probably use either regulated cruise or I would use manual. So just see which ones you like. And then here, I would probably use regulated precise because we've got some little points that we're coming into, but I would raise the SPIs. So anyway, I just want you to jump in and enjoy the modes. The stitching modes will just help you enhance your quilting skills and elevate them to the next level. Once you understand how they work, and you're never going to know how they work until you jump in and try it as a quilter. And that's, I guess, my homework assignment for you, is to jump in and try them for yourself and see what modes, what designs. And you know what? You don't have to be a professional quilter to use your machine to the fullest extent as a professional quilter. Those settings are there for you to help you enhance your quilting. And that's what I want you to do, is to enjoy it and enjoy the process. I want you to also recognize your capabilities. And if you don't try something new, then you're going to be caught in the same old, same old. And once you start trying new things and thinking outside the box, man, your capabilities and creativity will just blossom and grow. And that's what we want for you here at the Grace Company, is for you to exceed all your expectations using our wonderful products. Thank you for joining me today. I love stitching, I love quilting, and I just hope that you can glean something and love it as much as I do. I will see you next time, and we're going to talk about the different quilting feet, and I'm going to go through them one by one. So I'm looking forward to that, and my hand will even be better and stronger then. So I will see you next time. Bye.